I know Harold Washington walked the street. So they've always told me that people was intelligent. Some of the people did not even want some of those representatives in, but Harold Washington said, do it for me. Now it bothers me. It bothers me when I know that Alderman Stone said that there was no way in the world that he would vote for me for Alderman of the city of Chicago in the 3rd Ward. I remember my colleague Alderman Burke said before he would vote for me, he would jump out of a window. I remember that. I remember that when I came to this city council, that we had boards and commissioners, and that the mayor of Washington could not get through his city council because they did not want this city to function. What make you think they want it to function now? My name ain't Monty Hall, and this ain't Let's Make a Deal. It bothers me that just last week we were 26. Mayor Washington's body, he was not dead. The doctor had not pronounced him dead. But according to some of my colleagues who was in the room in the meeting when y'all was cutting your deals, when Eddie Bedodiak and Swivell and Burke was talking about take it back, that one of you, and I'm not going to call your name. No. Leave me alone, let me finish. At 12:30, the doctor did not pronounce Mayor Washington dead till 1:36, and at 12:30, one of you said, he's dead. I also heard that one of you said, well, he ain't going to come back. Let me tell you something, Mayor Washington lived. Y'all think this is orchestrated. Those of you who think it's orchestrated don't understand my community. And I'm appealing to the Washington 26. Don't do that. Understand what you're getting ready to do. Some of those same people who gerrymandered us and made sure that we didn't have our representation with the ward remap, we are now in the process of drawing up that new map. Don't do that. Mayor Washington put forth before us a budget. He said the city needed it. And I'm willing to bet you that part of the deal is to cut that budget and knock it down. Don't do that. The whole world is watching us. Our bond rating is going down. The first time in a long time our bond rating went up, and you went into bed, cut a deal with the devil. I have some serious problems with that. And I'm pleading to my colleagues, and I'm talking to the Washington 26. You know, I saw y'all. All right. You know, I saw you, how you would just be around the mayor. I'm with you, Mr. Mayor. Every time something go off, Mr. Mayor, I'm with you. I'm with you. You weren't with him. His body was not even cold. That bothers me. Somebody said that we around here doing this and doing that, but I have a problem. Yes, Alderman Stone, we was at the pavilion last night. Yes, we were there. We was memorializing our mayor. And we heard that you had disrespected our mayor by calling a council meeting today. So don't put that on me. You did it. Y'all did it. You called this meeting. Now I want the record straight, and I'm not gonna let nobody sit here and try to smooth everything over like we got this and we got that. You know what we got? Watch it. Y'all remember? You remember we went out in the snow and we worked our butts off and we put Jane Byrne in office, and the next day she joined the evil cabal. You know what happened to this city, but you know what happened to Jane Byrne too, don't you? Let me tell you something, and I want to talk to my colleagues. And I want to talk to those of you who's standing up like men and women. Maybe I'm not cut out for what you're cut out for. Because there are certain principles that's just embedded inside my bones. And I want you to understand this. You know, I came from the movement. And I came from Dr. King. And I want all of you who trying to do this, we face Sheriff Clark. It ain't none of y'all tougher than Sheriff Clark and Bull Connor. And I want you to understand that. And all the Uncle Toms that's out in the community that's encouraging this, we're watching you. We're watching you. Dr. King once said to us that a man can't ride your back if it's not bent. And I don't intend to bend my back. And I want to say to my colleagues, those of you who are standing up being men and women, there's going to be some difficult days ahead. Some very difficult days ahead. But we can weather the storm. We can weather that storm. Mayor Washington fought these suckers for 4 years. We can fight it for 14 months. I don't intend to be nice. Some of my colleagues done told me, you know, it's a long night, let's move it on. No, I'm not moving it on. Let me tell you something. Do you understand what you're doing today? Don't be caught on the wrong side of history. Don't be caught. You remember when Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, there were some black folks who didn't want to be free. They didn't understand freedom, Bobby. They went back to the master and said, Master, I don't want to be free. You want to talk about a plantation? That's how we got put on the plantation. They didn't want to go back, and the man said, that's all right, come on back in the house and work for me free. And be a good boy, and I'm going to take care of you. You know, I'm going to let you work for me. And when you get through, I'm going to have all your money in my pocket. I don't intend to go back on the plantation. We're going forward. And I don't even want the community. I mean, I know, I want you to understand, from a very nonviolent perspective, you don't have to dismay. God is on our side. Because we're doing what's right. And you got to understand that when we decided that we were going to run Mayor Washington for the mayor of the city of Chicago, there was those who said we could not do it. There was those who did not understand it until the 11th hour, when it was all over with. I've heard people accuse us of orchestrating this. We don't have to. It's a people's movement out here. There is no way the people are going to let government go back to those backroom deals. Be careful. There are times, sometimes you get caught up and you get wrapped up, my brothers who trying to go back to the plantations and my sisters. You get wrapped up and you don't understand you're being used. Don't be used, my brother. Don't be used. Step out. Don't be used by those folks. They're using you. They don't care nothing about you. We love you. We love you. Don't be used by them. Just don't be used. You got to understand that there's a time to stand up. There's a time the whole world is watching us. When a time you have people like these, all of them who've been getting up talking their praises, Bobby, something is wrong. And I say to Chicago, hold on to your pocketbooks. Anytime you get folks in a room that's talking about, yes, we will support you if you get rid of all of the mayor's staff, get rid of all of his programs, something is wrong with that. Yes, sir.
Your time is up. Can you please bring your remarks to a close?
Yeah, I'll bring it to a close. Now, let me say, in my closing, remember that some very important things are getting ready to be made here. We're talking about the fact that these same folks who gerrymandered black and Hispanics out of the last ward remap will be in control again. And I say to you, and I make a plea to my sisters and brothers, and to the 26th, don't go back. Don't go back. And I plead again to my brother, don't be used. And based off of that, I said we should wrap our arms around Timothy Evans, I support him to show these folks that the 26 live. Thank you so much.
Alderman Garcia is recognized. Alderman Garcia.
Mr. President.
Alderman Garcia is recognized. Alderman Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Alderman Garcia.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This morning, Mr. President, we carry a tremendous burden and responsibility, and that is setting the course for this city for the next 2 years. And in so doing, Mr. President, I think it is clear that your parliamentarian may be drafted into the city council because black people and white people want real representation in this city council. And Mr. President, we all want good representation. We also want honesty in the city council. Mr. President, today I humbly but very proudly announce to the citizens of this city and those that aren't citizens also, because there are many in my community, but I represent them because we pay taxes. Mr. President, in honor of our mayor, in honor of decency, I am very proud that the 4 Latinos in this council will advance the legacy of Harold Washington. We will advance the legacy of Harold Washington. We will not sell out. Yes. We will advance that legacy because we decided that we need unity in our community in the spirit of Harold Washington, as a virtue to Harold Washington, as a real tribute to freedom. What troubles me, Mr. President, is that I have heard speeches from the heart from both sides this evening. The problem, Mr. President, is that they are not sincere, because there are members in this council who have spoken with plastic hearts, not with real hearts. And, Mr. President, it troubles me that this so-called Rainbow Coalition is made up of the architects of illusion. Yes, illusion. Phony. This is not a coalition for progress, and you can walk out if you don't like what I say. But, Mr. President, with no evil and with no hate, Mr. President, I think it's important that we do the right thing this evening. I think it's important to do the right thing because some of these architects have exposed themselves before. Some of these architects who have talked about how great black people are would not invite them into their homes, at least not during daylight hours, Mr. President. Mr. President, I believe that the gentleman from the 6th Ward is a fine gentleman. The problem is that over the last few days, he's changed his mind about 10 times. He doesn't know if he wants to be mayor. I cannot support someone who doesn't know how we're going to lead this city. I cannot, Mr. Mayor. I cannot see how this coalition, this new majority, composed of people who oppose affirmative action, who like Reaganomics and devastation in our city, who oppose the ward remap that gave our community a voice, that gave people all over the city a voice, that gave black people and white people and brown people and Asians and Indians a real voice in the city council, how they can unite with these forces. Mr. President, I rise proudly to second the nomination of the gentleman and my colleague and the fighter from the Fort Ward, Mr. Timothy Evans. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, I rise, Mr. President, because it's important, Mr. President, to be practical tonight, very practical, not by selling out cheaply or expensively, but because, Mr. President, I know that the leader from the Fort Ward is electable in 1989, Mr. President. Yes, that is why, Mr. President, not only, one other thing that troubles me, Mr. President, is that some individuals in this body who, when the mayor was alive last week, only dared to whisper criticisms of his administration, today are hollering and insulting his memory and his leadership and his work because he didn't do it when he was alive. Mr. President, I also have reservations in supporting a man who only last week was criticizing something that the mayor was very fond of, and that was the creation, the establishment, and the fine work that the Mayor's Commission on Latino Affairs has done for this city, Mr. Mayor. The mayor could take criticism that came from the government if it was to advance the interests of our community, Mr. Mayor. Mr. President, in closing, I'm saddened, deeply saddened. And I don't speak in anger. I believe that I speak with righteousness. And I'm not religious, but I'm a man of high ideals from the smallest ward in the city of Chicago. But with Harold Washington, I was an equal partner in this body. And I will continue to fight for that. Mr. President, excuse me if I've abused of the time privilege. Mr. President, locally, 1988 may not be so great. But I know one thing, Mr. President. With Mayor Evans, things will be fine in 1989. Hasta la victoria!
Alderman Shaw is recognized. Alderman Shaw is recognized. Alderman Shaw is recognized. Okay, I have Alderman Shaw, Alderman Burke, and Alderman Bloom.
Mr. President,
I see Alderman Caldwell, Alderman Shaw,
and members of the City Council, I had not intended to speak here today, but certainly...
Audience, will you please refrain from making comments? Alderman Shaw has the floor.
Certainly, after hearing many of the comments, listening to the telephones today, almost 5,000 people we contacted, either we called them, that lived in the 9th Ward, or they called our office. And the results was 3,041 for Eugene Sawyer, 1,911 for Alderman Evans. I don't know what the situation is, but I know
we have been more tolerant with people applauding on all sides. We do not want to have any comments, any negative comments, any interruption of the speakers. We're almost through with our speakers. Please let us continue. Alderman Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. President. I afford everyone courtesy. But last night I talked with people in my ward till 4:30 this morning. From 12:30, they was calling my home. I talked with a lady, Ruby Reese, about 11 o'clock. My neighbor lived down the street. She had some concerns. I talked with her about an hour. Frida Jordan, this morning, I talked with her, explained the situation, and talked to her about two fine gentlemen that I've known for some time. Alderman Evans and I are members of the same church, and I've said that many times. And I've known him for several years. Alderman Sawyer and I work together, both in the water department and here as a member of the Chicago City Council. And I didn't get up here to criticize Alderman Evans. I'm up here to speak about a person that I think will represent the ideals and the programs that Mayor Washington represented in the city. I think those programs were people programs. I think they offered hope. I've heard many allegations concerning the direction we are going. The people of this city, and particularly black people of this city, are no longer on their knees. They stood up in 1983 because of Mayor Washington. He liberated black people. I agree with that. And he should, and it was the right thing to do. And I support that. And for as long as I live, I will support those kinds of principles. On the other hand, we have a fine alderman from the 6th Ward that in my judgment, in the judgment of 3,041 people, said to me today, says, Alderman Shaw, I'd like me to cast a vote for the gentleman from the 6th Ward. When I was elected back in April of this year, I promised the people of my community that I would listen to them. I would listen to them. And that's what I'm doing today. Mr. President, I did not interrupt these people in the rear here.
You're right,
I
Alderman.
would like to continue.
Continue, Alderman. Please cooperate.
The situation, the other concerns is that I think within the first 90 days of this administration, you will see the kind of progressive administration, the same kind that Mayor Washington carried on for the 5 years, almost 5 years, he was our mayor and leader. Never one time in 7 months, as a member of this council under the leadership of Mayor Washington, I did not deviate his programs. And I told the people of my community the other day, when someone asked if I were going to vote for the tax increase, and I says I can speak for one alderman. I intend to vote for all $84 million in the tax increase. And I still intend to vote for it if it comes before this council. I can support it. The people of my community indicated to me that they want to see Mayor Washington's program promoted and furthered in this city. And I want to support that and will support it. We have to support those programs. I believe in the leadership of Alderman Sawyer. Some people say, well, another candidate was Mayor Washington's candidate. Well, first place, Mayor Washington didn't have no candidate because Mayor Washington told us all the time that he expected to be here 20 years mayor of this city. And he did not have and did not groom any candidate. But in the absence of the mayor, he named the presiding officer of this body, Alderman Eugene Sawyer. He put the gavel in his hand. This is the same gentleman my colleague from the 6th Ward, had the same job that Alderman Frost had in 1976. And the people of my community felt then that he should have been mayor. And it was an uproar, uprising in the community. But another fellow, the floor leader, got the job in 1976. Today, I believe we would serve the city well, based on the information from my community and what I know about these gentlemen. I just happen to be voting based upon the recommendation from 3,041 people from my community for Eugene Sawyer. Thank you, Mr. President.
Alderman Burke is recognized, followed by Bloom and Caldwell. Alderman Burke.
Mr. President, I was going to move to close the nominations. It's now going on to 4 o'clock in the morning. However, if there are other members who wish to be heard,
Can we just have the remaining speeches be brief? Whoever intends to speak. We had Alderman Bloom and Caldwell.
I'll withhold my motion then until the other two speakers.
Okay, we'll continue. Again, there is a request for brevity. Alderman Bloom has the floor.
I yield to Alderman Smith for the opening of my
Alderman
remarks.
Smith has the floor. Alderman Smith has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will assure this body that I will only be just maybe a couple of minutes, but I feel that it is extremely necessary, and I want you to just give me a couple of minutes here, that I should make a couple of points. There are a thorn of people outside. The same number and the same kinds of crowds that we saw as we returned from the funeral and went to the cemetery on yesterday with the mayor's body, they're out there in the streets now. My office today has been completely littered with calls. And in my ward, I don't have E.F. Hutton, but when my people speak, I listen. Now, let me make it perfectly clear. I am here to vote for Tim Evans. Now, that is not to say that I hate Eugene Sawyer. That is not the case. I'm here to vote for Eugene, for Tim Evans. And I want, in this process, I have to face people, the same people I have to face. Every vote that is cast against Tim Evans is going to have to face the same people that I face. Now, it's all right for some of my colleagues to vote against Tim Evans because they don't live where I live. And if I vote against Tim Evans, I just want the record to be clear. If I vote against Tim Evans, when I go home tonight, I am going to be a stranger in my own house. And Mr. Mayor, I just want you to know that I can't be a stranger at home. And so I'm casting my vote for Tim Evans. Thank you.
Alderman Bloom is recognized. Alderman Bloom.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm proud to second the nomination of my neighbor, Alderman Tim Evans, to be acting mayor of the city of Chicago. And I had lots I wanted to say. And I'm only going to extract from what I was thinking of during this long meeting for a few items. I learn a lot about the people that I argue with. You can only argue and disagree with people who have ideas of their own. And I'm proud to say that I've had a few disagreements with Tim Evans. But I've come out of that knowing something. I've come out of that experience knowing that he is a man of integrity, knowing that he is a man who is committed, knowing that he is a man who cares about this city and how he sees its future, and he cared enough about it to argue with me about it. And I like that. I like the fact that some of the arguments he won and some of them I won. And that when we came out of it, we shook our hands, we looked Mayor Washington in the eye, and we said we're going on together. And that's what we should be doing here today. When I look ahead to the very difficult days that will follow this morning, I try to picture in my mind the kind of person I want standing before 3 million Chicagoans and explaining how we are going to go from this morning into the future. And when I look between the two candidates, I must say that I only want to picture one of them before the people of Chicago. Because when I look and see that picture in my mind tomorrow morning, I want to see a gentleman who can say confidently, articulately, intelligently, confidently, and sincerely, Chicago, we have been through a trauma, but Chicago, we are committed to carrying forward what Harold Washington taught us. I have a fear about the vote that will not permit me to see Tim Evans speaking to Chicago tomorrow morning. There is one last chance for my colleagues to give Chicago the opportunity to have Tim Evans lead us in this very difficult time. Whatever comes, whatever will be, I'm very proud to second the nomination of Tim Evans.
Alderman Caldwell. Alderman Caldwell.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This evening, on into the wee small hours of the morning, we have been impressed greatly by the impassioned pleas of support for the various candidates. I will not present my commentary of support with rancor or reservation. I shall not allege innuendo or insinuation. My conversation of support will not include name-calling or naysaying. It is not in anger or in the anticipation of personal gain. There's no profit motivation. I shall not allege stealth or secrecy. I would not begin to insult the integrity of this group by speaking of coercion or co-optation. But I will speak to you in candor and with conscience. And what I would simply like to state to this august body is that upon sober reflection, upon reflecting on the multitude of commentary from my community, as I am charged with by being the representative legislative officer from the 8th Ward, succinctly stated, I am in support and will be in support of Timothy C. Evans for mayor. And as I close and take my seat, I at this point would indicate to you, Mr. President, that I do in fact intend to vote for Timothy C. Evans for mayor of the city of Chicago.
Let me just see, Alderman Burke withheld his motion. Do we see Alderman Eisendrath, the last speaker? Okay, Alderman Eisendrath.
Thank you very much. And as somebody who was not here through council wars, but came here as an independent, not part of some of the divisive battles between the two sides that remain here, I guess that's appropriate that I get to be the last one. I have asked these candidates about their commitment to certain issues. The ethics ordinance, both say it will remain. Budget cuts, both say they are necessary. Supporting the Shackman decree, both candidates say they will do their best in that regard. Supporting, protecting manufacturing in the city. Being accessible to all of us aldermen so that we can work on issues of ward service. Pushing the education summit so that we can improve our schools. Exploring privatization in city services like towing. Recycling. Both have talked about bringing the city together. I just want to ask briefly through the chair if both candidates publicly, if that's correct. You can just nod. So on those issues that were part of the agenda in the past, we have agreement from these two candidates for this. What then is the difference? Well, if I've learned anything in the last few days, it's that this city council, by making someone here the mayor without the mandate of the people, because we aren't having a popular vote, this city council will be burdened with the responsibility of running the city. It's a big responsibility, and it falls on us on all sides. As soon as this vote is over, we have to start healing. We have to push, Chewy, for those of us who want a reform agenda, we have to push very hard, no matter who sits in that chair. And it will be more our responsibility than ever, because this council will have more responsibility and more strength than ever. This process, as bitter as it has been in public, has allowed each of us to spend an awful lot more time talking with each other than many of us probably would have liked. But we know each other better, and I hope that will lead us to work harder. For the sake of continuity, for the sake of what at least I believe many of the most outcast in the city seem to think, I will be supporting Tim Evans in this vote. But, Mr. President, I urge all of my colleagues, if the vote does not go that way, and I believe I can count, if the vote does not go that way, I would urge all of us on reconsideration to make this a unanimous vote for whoever the winner is, because the city must pull together afterwards.
Alderman Burke. Alderman Burke.
Mr. President, I now move that the nominations be closed and the clerk be directed to call the roll.
Okay, a motion for closing of nominations. Do you want a roll call? If a roll call has been called for, the clerk will call the roll. This is for all nominations. The motion is to close nominations. The clerk will take the roll. Well,
Rhodey.
Alderman Podolyak wants a roll call.
Rhodey. Rush.
No,
Tillman.
this is just a closing of nominations. This is a motion to close nominations by Alderman Burke. A roll call was called for. The clerk will take the roll.
Tillman. Tillman. Timothy Evans. Timothy Evans. Bloom. Sawyer. Beavers. Beavers. Caldwell. Shaw, Verdoliak, Hewells, Ferry, Madrick, Burke, Carter, Langford, Streeter, Kellum, Sheehan, Jones, Jesse Evans, Garcia, Kristiniak, Henry, Solis, Gutierrez, Butler, Smith, Davis, Hagopian, Figueroa, Gabinski, Mel, Austin, Cutlars, Banks, Giles, Cullerton, Marino, O'Connor, Kuczynski, and Terrace.
Will the body please get in their seats? We're down to the votes now. The body,
Nateras,
please take their seats.
Eisendrath, Hanson, LeVar, Schiller, Schulter, Osterman, Orr,
Aye.
Stone. Alderman Rush changes from nay to yea. Alderman Beavers votes yea.
City clerk is adding up
This was the vote for... The vote to close nominations is 45-2, so nominations are now closed. It's now in order for us to vote on the two candidates before us. Again, I'd ask if all the aldermen would take their seats, just make it a little easier for us. And let me see if I can clarify the procedures. Procedures will be as each alderman will be called on by roll call, and they can announce the candidate of their choice. Is that clear to the body? The clerk will mention the alderman's name. The alderman will choose which of the two nominees they are voting for, say so publicly. Is that clear to the members of the body? This is election. The way it is proceeding is that the clerk will call your name and you will simply announce Evans or Sawyer. It's that simple. Okay, is that all clear? This is the vote then. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Rhodey.
Eugene Sawyer.
Rush.
Ronald Timothy Evans.
Tillman.
Mr. President, I proudly cast my vote all in
Timothy Evans. Bloom. Sawyer. Beavers. Caldwell.
When he votes, you'll hear.
Shaw. Verdoliak. Hewells. Ferry. Madrick.
Sawyer.
Burke. Carter. Langford. Streeter. Kellum. Sheehan. Jones. Jesse Evans. Garcia. Kristiniak. Henry. Solis. Gutierrez. Butler. Smith. Davis. Hagopian.
Sawyer.
Figueroa.
Evans.
Gabinski.
Sawyer.
Mel.
Sawyer.
Austin. Cutlars.
Sawyer.
Banks.
Sawyer.
Giles.
Evans.
Cullerton.
Sawyer.
Lorino.
Sawyer.
O'Connor.
Sawyer.
Kuczynski.
Sawyer.
Nateras.
Sawyer.
Eisendrath. Hanson.
Sawyer.
LeVar. Schiller. Schulter. Osterman. Orr.
Evans.
Stone. And Beaver cast a vote for Evans.
Now the formal word.
Wait a second. I first have to, if I have your attention, please, we're almost done. We're almost done. We, again, ask the audience to please be respectfully quiet. The vote is Eugene Sawyer, 29 votes, Evans, 19. Alderman Sawyer is elected acting mayor. Want to protest?
Evans and Sawyer now shaking hands.
Looks like Eugene Sawyer is going to try and leave the city council chambers, getting some congratulations all around. 29 to 19.
If the body would please
That's
take
the
their
final
seats
vote.
while Alderman Sawyer approaches the podium.
Here we go.
Alderman Hanson has the floor.
Mr. President, move to reconsider.
A motion to reconsideration, if the body would please. Can you hear me? A motion to reconsideration? All in favor? All opposed?
No!
That was an effort to make it unanimous.
Okay. This is an unusual procedure, so just bear with us. Who was Alderman Burke or Alderman Shaw? Were you?
First of all, Mr. President, would the chair direct the clerk to reflect in the Journal of Proceedings that the vote electing Mayor Sawyer was cast at the hour of 4:01 a.m. this date? So ordered. So ordered.
I'm sorry. Once again, I
Would the
couldn't hear
chair
that.
direct the clerk to reflect in the Journal that the vote electing Mayor Sawyer was cast at 4:01 a.m.?
So ordered. Yes.
It's Alderman Ed Burke making.
Alderman Shaw would like to make a motion that the...
I'll make the vote.
Alderman Shaw is recognized. Please, we're almost done.
Mr.
We're
President.
almost done. Please ask the audience and the alderman to please hang on a few more minutes. Alderman Shaw is recognized.
Mr. President, I make a motion that the election be unanimous.
Want to withdraw the motion? Okay, do we have any other business before us? Remarks first, then read this first or his remarks?
This is his resignation.
Okay, you're going to read that, then you can make your comment.
Yeah, why we swear him in now?
We'll swear him in. Can we do that now?
Let me do the letter of resignation first.
Okay. Could I have your attention, please? The clerk is now going to read.
May I have your attention, please?
We're going to vote on him as president.
This letter is dated.
Please, we want your attention now. We want your attention, all in the audience. The clerk is now going to read something.
This letter is directed to the Honorable David D. Orr and the City Council of the City of Chicago. Ladies and gentlemen, I hereby resign my position as Alderman of the 6th Ward, effective immediately upon my election as acting mayor of the City of Chicago. Respectfully submitted, Eugene Sawyer.
And now, the clerk will swear in Eugene Sawyer as acting mayor.
If you'll repeat after me, please. We can have your attention, please. You'll report. That would be appropriate, yes. Would the members of the Eugene Sawyer family please join us at the podium? Will you repeat after me, please? I,
Eugene Sawyer,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of acting mayor of the City of Chicago
the office of acting mayor of the City of Chicago
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I come to you at this time bearing a heavy heart. Chicago has lost one of its great sons, and Black Chicago has lost one of its greatest leaders. Yet the wave of progress ushered in by our late mayor's 2 successive victories cannot be rolled back because of his death. Fate has a different choice for our great city. I humbly accept your choice to me to guide the city, and I promise you that I will continue the programs and policies of our late mayor. I thank all of my colleagues who voted for me and extend my hand and friendship to those who did not support me. You have heard questions about my support of the reform movement. Let me end all speculations now. The reform movement initiated by Mayor Harold Washington shall remain intact and go forward. It will continue untainted by special interests for the rich and powerful. This city government will be an open city government, open to all people all of the time. Our city elected officials will be responsible to the people. There shall be no cronyism or favoritism. Harold Washington proclaimed the machine is dead, he was speaking the absolute truth. I will continue to ensure that the old politics of those who you know and what's in it for me shall forever be put to rest. Harold's victory symbolized a new shining on our city, and my administration will fight to keep the clouds from coming over it. I shall continue to unite black, white, and Hispanic, Slav and Jew, Christian and Asian, white ethnics, and new immigrants. Yes, this will be a difficult work, but I know that with the help of the people of Chicago, their elected officials, the ministers, priests, and rabbis, we can overcome our differences and heal our wounds that have kept us from coming together to build an even greater city. Finally, I pledge to you that the sacrifices of our late mayor will not be in vain. Since we have so much to do, let me be brief and to the point. I want my colleagues and the community at large to know just a little bit about who Eugene Sawyer really is. I graduated from Alabama State University. I had the privilege during that period of time to be involved in the bus boycott, 1952 through 1956. My fraternity served as bodyguards for Dr. Martin Luther King. I was a member of that security team. Like Harold Washington, I joined the regular Democratic organization in Chicago. I was elected Democratic committeeman of the 6th Ward in 1968 and Alderman in 1971. Until my election today as acting mayor, I was a senior black alderman of the city council. I have not forgotten the lessons taught by Dr. King. When Congressman Washington announced that he would be a candidate for mayor in the Democratic primary in 1982, I was the first Democratic committeeman to support him. The 6th Ward under my leadership gave Mayor Harold Washington the largest vote of any ward in both the primary and general elections in 1983 and again for his re-election in 1987. I was a supporter of Mayor Harold Washington from the very beginning. I'm honored to say that the mayor trusted me. When I was elected as President Pro Tem in 1983, the mayor knew that the gavel was being placed in capable hands upon his absence. During the days of council wars, there were those who wanted me to be less than loyal to the mayor, but I was absolutely supportive of the mayor's policies. During Mayor Washington's administration, I was a staunch supporter of the mayor, not a critic, to the very end. I will continue to support and advance the mayor's progressive reform agenda. I will continue his efforts to reform our educational system to provide decent education for our children. I will continue his programs to provide decent, affordable housing for those who need shelter, including the homeless. I will continue his program to create jobs and opportunities for all of our people. I will continue the mayor's affirmative action programs in hiring, purchasing, contracts for black, Hispanics, and women. I will continue his programs to provide effective health programs and to reduce infant mortality, which is so prevalent in some of our communities. I will support our police department, as the mayor did, in providing safety for our seniors and our citizens generally. I will support the mayor's economic development programs. In short, I will continue the mayor's programs and develop new ones when needed. As a result of Mayor Harold Washington's great leadership, Chicago will never be the same. As he stated so emphatically, patronage as we knew it is dead, dead, dead. Moreover, I will support the mayor's efforts to create open, accountable, ethical government with fairness and justice for all. In addition, I will support the mayor's national urban agenda to reorder our national priorities in order to bring the funds and resources back to the cities to create jobs, education, housing, health, and other vital programs. I shall put my administration at the disposal of all the people of Chicago to build an even greater Chicago, a Chicago where everyone has a place. This, I feel, would certainly be a fitting legacy to our fallen leader. And last but certainly not least, to my friend, Mayor Hal Washington, who left the gavel in my hand each time he left this council chamber. I pledge to you, my friend, I will never let you down. I will never violate the trust you vested in me, for you were the greatest. I say to you, farewell to my buddy. I will never, never, never let you down. God bless you and thank you.
Eugene Sawyer, the new acting mayor of the city of Chicago, by a vote of 29 to 19. It happened at 4:01 a.m. It is now 4:13 as we zoom in on Ed Burke, who supported Eugene Sawyer all the way and probably persuaded him to come down and face the vote.
I feel confident that I speak for all of the members of the City Council when I extend to you our best wishes for good health, success, and happiness in your tenure in office as the 43rd mayor of the city of Chicago. May God bless you and keep you safe and secure throughout your tenure in office. Mr. President.
Thank you. There being no further business before this body, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Alderman Langford wishes to be recognized.
Alderman Langford is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's still some ugliness in these chambers. Your speech should not be missed by anybody, inside these chambers or outside. All of those who tonight have talked about deals and vermin and slime and everything else, I hope that this will let them know that you, who are one of the closest friends, intend to carry out his program. We will not be vultures. We will not be thieves, such as we have been designated as tonight. And we will have a united, reformed city council mayor relationship. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Paris is recognized.
Mr. President, I move that the clerk order that your speech be printed in special pamphlet form and be distributed through all public agencies within the boundaries of the city of Chicago.
Alderman Caldwell.
Mr. President, if the motion be in order, may I be the first in your tenure in mayor to motion this meeting adjourned?
Just a minute, Alderman. Will you hold that motion, please?
Oh, did you? My motion, Mr. President.
There is a motion to print my remarks in an official pamphlet. All those in favor signify by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Matter is adopted. I will now entertain your motion, Alderman.
Thank you, and I get a second try at it. Mr. Mayor, I would move that this meeting be adjourned till the time to be set by the finance chairman.
All those in favor signify by the sign of aye.
By law. Would the chairman set the date? Okay. By law.
All those in favor signify by the sign of aye. Opposed, nay. The council is adjourned.
Thank you.
Here's the adjournment.
Finally got it.
Now will Mr. Sawyer face the press? And gentlemen, I wonder if the Evans forces are going to go
ask
to
that the alderman remain
court.
on the council floor until the council chambers have been cleared.
There are some security procedures. Some of the public still rather loud back there, so they will clear things. But those two questions outstanding. What's the answer? Any word from the Evans camp? Mike?
We're going to go and find out now, Bill.
Okay.
Parliamentary.
Yes, will they go to court and will they challenge what has happened here?
Well, they were sure setting it up, and as you can see, both sides had much of this debate orchestrated. Much of it was clearly prepared in advance. One of the aides to Mayor Sawyer, I guess we should get used to that term, told me that there were 10 or 11 versions of that speech that he just delivered, and that this, he may have been speaking by a bit of hyperbole, but clearly that speech was worked on a long time and very hard, an effort by Eugene Sawyer there to rebut, to respond to, and to repudiate the criticism that has been made of him as someone who is not going to be truly faithful to the programs of Harold Washington. That, for anyone who's been through the night with us, watching the rhetoric, that certainly was the heart of the opposition's case against him, and he is effectively trying to answer that. We're hoping that he's going to come over and speak with the news media. We're hoping that he's going to answer our questions. We're also told, Bill, that the Sawyer forces are well aware that they have a big image problem, particularly out there in the black community. And one of their plans is to launch something of a public relations offensive later today and tomorrow and through the week. Apparently, a group of ministers, a large group of ministers, are going to be convening, and Mr. Sawyer, who has been very active in black church, in a significant black church and black churches throughout his community in the city, is going to turn to those church men and women to help him carry his message out.
Well, he has a lot to say. Frankly, I was far more impressed with the speakers supporting Eugene Sawyer than with Tim Evans. They were very impressive there in the city council. And once he got his sort of act together and people started speaking for him, you could see that there was a strength there. As a matter of fact, I'm not so sure that we depicted him inaccurately a bit earlier as going back and forth, swaying with the mood of the council. I think, whoops, Mike, you probably can't hear us. We just lost our picture and sound down to the city council chambers. We will try and get it back. But as I was saying, we had him going back and forth so quickly there. Finally, with Alderman Edberg going up and talking him down. I'm not so sure that is the case. He came back with such strength, and maybe he was up there working on his speech all the time. We may have to adjust our characterization. Mike, I think we can pick up your sound if you can hear us, and now we have picture.
Yes, Bill, we can hear you, and here is Eugene Sawyer now.
I'll get down. Mayor Sawyer, there's been certainly a bitter fight here today. What is your reaction to the fight that's happened?
I'll let Jim get in there.
The city at this point?
We're going to try and reach out to everybody, as I indicated in my remarks, and pull people together so that we can make it one Chicago. Chicago that works for all people.
How will you do that and repair the damage? How will you do that? You've been sitting here all day quietly. You've been listening to all of this. I wonder if you'd give us your reaction, your gut feeling tonight.
Well, initially I had to try to hold this thing off and bring it back on Friday and have a vote, but it wasn't the will of the council, so as a result we had to do it tonight. I thought that it would be better, considering the atmosphere outside, the atmosphere in the building. It would have been a lot better to wait for a few days and let calmer heads prevail, then have a vote on an active measure.
You have some fence mending to do, I'm sure, and is that your first priority?
Quite a bit. That was part of my concern for trying to hold up the process so we can bring people together, sit down and talk, and heal some wounds. And we've got a lot of work to do. We're going to work with the churches, community organizations, the business community. We're going to work with everybody to try and bring this city together.
Mr. Mayor, can you clarify one big point for us? We were told by some of the people who were here in the chamber earlier that when you left around 9:30, many hours ago, that you were ill, that in fact you were on the verge of having passed out.
No,
people said your knees had buckled. Can you tell us about that? What happened there?
No, I'm quite well. Basically, as I said before, I wanted to try and hold the process a little bit. People were a little bit rough today outside of the building. The aldermen were threatened, their families were threatened, their officers were threatened. We wanted to try to get out of that kind of atmosphere and bring people together and unify them, but we couldn't do it, and I couldn't get the council to agree to put off the vote until Friday. I left out and went upstairs to rest for a few minutes because it was rather crowded and I got caught in a little jam. And,
so just to clarify things about the physical situation.
I'm in good shape. Everything still works.
Were you on the verge of passing out?
No. Well, maybe if I'm hungry, I've had anything to eat, but otherwise I'm feeling fine.
Your Honor, I wonder if you can tell us, there was some concern on your part, I'm told, about being elected with just a majority of white aldermen, that you wanted to make sure you had a sufficient number
I must be very honest with you, Dick. That does represent a concern of mine, that we didn't have as many black aldermen as I wanted. Initially, there were 11 who signed the resolution. And when the threats came and the telephone calls came in, which I think was somewhat orchestrated. 3 of the aldermen or 4 of them backed off. And that was a concern of mine because even though you have the seats, you also have to govern. And I want my community unified behind me so that we can make the city work.
Mayor, one of the things that Alderman Beavers told us at one point around 10 o'clock when he came down, that you yourself had begun to change your mind because of the polling you've been doing in your own ward, and the polling that he had been done.
My ward was overwhelming tonight. I had 4 or 5 people taking calls at the office tonight. It was overwhelming.
In 1989,
beg your pardon?
You can run for
I'm not going to answer that question.
Mr. Mayor, one thing you're going to have to face tomorrow morning, the Chicago Sun-Times has a story about your relatives and longtime associates on a lot of payrolls, and they talk about the annual payroll being about $500,000. They say you're going to have to, they don't say you're going to have to answer it. How are you going to respond?
That showed up in the Tribune today. Of course, they detailed it a little bit more. My daughter does work for the city. She has a degree in lawyer from Loyola.
I know they weren't family.
They weren't all family members, but one thing they did not say, they weren't qualified for the jobs that they were doing. My brother has a master's degree from Northwestern. My daughter has a degree from Loyola. My son is not working for the city or the park district. He's in law school now. So a lot of information was incorrect.
Well, Your Honor,
does that make the promise of no cronyism and no patronage sound a little hollow?
That happened years ago. Those kids were there quite some time. They've been on those jobs for a number of years.
You are gracious to stay with us and talk with us after this, and I'm sure all Chicago wishes you well. Let us be the first to wish you well.
Thank you, and none of you look tired at all. You look bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Mr. Mayor, what are you going to be doing
late at night?
What are you going to be doing in terms of carrying the message out? I understand from some of your colleagues you'll be meeting with some ministers. You're counting on a group of ministers to help you talk to people in the black community?
Labor leaders have called. A number of people have called in to offer their assistance, and we're going to reach out and just sit down with people and talk and try and work through this whole process.
So over the next few days, you're in effect going to be campaigning?
Tonight, yes, we met with them.
And you expect to go down to Operation Push? And
sometime soon.
You expect to mount a sort of political campaign after having been elected mayor?
I guess you've got it right.
Well, there's one question that people want to know. I mean, the people are talking about a new coalition. Mayor Sawyer has worked with a lot of these white aldermen who voted for him tonight. Is this a new era of cooperation in the Chicago City Council?
Well, if you look at the ticket that the mayor crafted with George Dunn in the last slating session, you'll see a ticket that most of you were surprised with. And I do think that was the direction the mayor was moving in, trying to craft a ticket so that we can bring all people together.
And there'll be a new spirit?
Chicago. And I think there'll be a new spirit here. We'll work together, I think.
You're certainly a different kind of politician than Harold Washington. Tell us about the differences, the differences of style. Can you just summarize that? I know people want you to leave, but make that the final thought as you depart.
Well, you know the mayor, he was very, very loquacious, and he was real tough. I guess I might be a little bit soft-spoken, somewhat less than he was, but I'm just as committed as he was. I care about the city as he did. I care about his people. And I want our programs to move, the city to move ahead.
Mayor, congratulations. Thank you very much.
Mayor Sawyer, thank you.
We really appreciate it.
So there you have it. The new mayor of Chicago, and we might, if we can get our microphones and camera here, we also have a man whom we are told is also going to be preparing to run for mayor in 1989, Tim Evans. Let's join him as he speaks.
A relatively short period of time, I'm going to get a good night's rest, or a good morning's rest, I guess, at this hour. And I'm going to get a chance to renew my relationships with my family and my friends. I'm certainly going to thank all of those people who wanted to help me and assist me in my quest for glorious outpouring of feelings. I felt very confident that there was a role that they wanted me to play in the future. It didn't happen. I wasn't able to, I guess, convince enough of my colleagues that they wanted it to happen tonight. But fortunately, in the future, perhaps we'll have an opportunity to talk directly to some of those people who sent some of my colleagues down. And I'd like to share some of my thoughts and views with some of them.
What about the position of floor leader? You're talking around the job of floor leader. I have remain as floor leader.
Well, I have not discussed that with Mayor Sawyer. I only heard his gracious remarks about his plans for the future and the abstract. I'm sure at some point in the future we'll have an opportunity to sit down and have an exchange of views.
Can you tell us, Mr. Evans, your reaction to those remarks, particularly where he pledged to continue Mayor Washington's program?
Oh, I was very pleased to hear that, and I hope that that is correct. I would wish him well if that's what he intends to do. I certainly believe that anyone who can embrace and support and pursue successfully those goals would do very, very well.
Finance chairman, you still have a huge role here. Will it be difficult for you to work as finance chairman with Mayor Sawyer?
Well, it would depend upon his programs. You see, fortunately, the legislative body is not an appendage of the executive branch. We have separate and distinct responsibilities. We, I think, can shoulder those responsibilities in a way that underlines cooperation when we are on the same wavelength. Where we're not on the same wavelength, I would expect to disagree, as I have always done, with administrations that we didn't agree with. And I think that I would call on my colleagues to look to the legislative branch to shoulder its full responsibilities, even though the mayor is Mayor Sawyer instead of Mayor Evans.
Were you running in 1989?
Yes, will there be a law challenge? Well, we'll take a look at that. I certainly disagree with some of what the presiding officer, former Mayor Orr, was compelled to do. You recall during the course of the debate, on many occasions his rulings were appealed successfully, and he was forced to enter orders that I don't believe complied with the law. So we'll be taking a look at that, but let me just rush to say that I want to be positive tonight, or early this morning. I want to say to all of the citizens of this city that we have to review now our options. We have to try to see what we can do to move this city forward using a different vantage point. I said a little bit earlier that dreams deferred are not any less precious. I think that those things that we talked about a few minutes before the election are just as valid as those things that we need to talk about in the future now that the election is over. This election will be in granite, in quotes, according to some of my colleagues, until 1989. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not true. It would depend upon an analysis of the facts.
So you haven't decided on a legal challenge at this time?
I beg your pardon? Well, Andy, it would be interesting if I were to make any announcement tonight other than the fact that all of you need plenty of rest. I can see that in your faces. And as I see it in your faces, I see somehow it reflected in my face. So, no, I don't intend to talk specifically about races in the future. I do think, though, that the city of Chicago still has a bright future, and anything in the world I can do to make it even brighter, I would be prepared to do that.
Evans, a final thought to the people who were very, very caught up in the movement to put you in as mayor.
Yes.
Some of them have been up all night watching this on television and are watching right now.
Yes.
Some words to them in the wake of the election of Eugene Sawyer.
Well, they are glorious individuals. I can assure you of that. They are people who are prepared to walk these streets, stay up all time of night, encourage me and my supporters, demand that the Mayor Washington forces have an opportunity to see an agenda go forward. They are fine, talented, capable people, people who want to continue to play a role in this city, and they will. I'll see to it. If I could send a word of thanks to all of them, I would do so in this way. Don't rest too long. There's plenty of work to do ahead. I'll be calling on you perhaps very soon to join me on perhaps other quests. I think the mayor would want it to be that way. You recall that Mayor Washington lost a similar fight. And he called on the best and the brightest to stay tuned. He promised them that there were other glorious fights on the horizon. I think we could safely say that we have similar fights on the horizon. Who the enemy will be remains to be seen. We would hope that we could chase all of the enemies, hunger, ill housing, crime, all of those things out of this city, and embrace instead economic development and fairness and equity, a reduction in crime, commitment to senior citizens, to the young people, to the future. I would want them to feel free to get ready, to prepare, to battle in those arenas. And one other thing, they're entitled to a little sleep tonight also. So what I would expect to hear not too long from now is televisions clicking off and radios clicking off for an hour or two. Get a little rest and wake up, and we'll see what looks good for us in the morning.
Mr. Evans, doesn't Mr. Sawyer need your support if he's to govern effectively for the next year and a half, however?
Oh, I think any mayor would want to have the support of all of the citizens, and I'm prepared to talk to Mayor Sawyer once he's had an opportunity to put his programs together and see what he has to say. I don't know what those programs are, and I think probably it would be unfair to demand that those programs be outlined tonight. After all, none of us anticipated the tragedy of last Wednesday. And in a relatively short time, we've had a full-blown, though truncated campaign. One, incidentally, which I felt should have gone on much longer than it did. And perhaps with a different result.
No doubt.
But nevertheless, I feel good. My friends felt that we won. Winning sometimes is more than putting on a mantle. It's being able to keep one on once you put it on. And I'm suggesting to you that it is possible that there is a silver lining for us to see.
Are you heartened by the pledges that Mr. Sawyer made tonight about keeping the agenda, the dream, the reforms alive, no business as usual?
Oh, yes, I am. I was very pleased to hear that. And I'm sure that if he stays on that course, he'll have a much better chance to succeed. And I guess more importantly, those people who will have to sit under the sound of his voice will have a much better chance as well. I wish him well. I wish him well. And I hope and trust that as we go forward, we'll find common ground. And where we find that common ground, I expect that we'll stand on it together. Where we have differences, we'll point those differences out and see what might be done to resolve them.
And you urge the community not to react badly to this?
Oh, no, I certainly wouldn't want to see the community react badly under any set of circumstances. We fought a good fight. And as I suggested before, we will have an opportunity to fight again. This is not the war, just one battle.
Some very tough things were said here about Eugene Sawyer and about the kind of administration he might run in the wake now of his victory. Do you think some of that rhetoric ought to be reconsidered?
Well, I don't consider anything I say simply rhetoric. As you know, I measure my words, and I try my best to make certain that the words that I use describe accurately the set of circumstances that I'm alluding to. But let me just simply say this. At this hour, I think it's time for us to get a little rest and relax a bit, say thanks to some friends that I have on the outside, I'm told. If they are still there, I'll find a few and shake a few hands, and we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Alderman Emmons, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Get some sleep.
I appreciated it.
Bill Curtis?
Yes,
Getting
Mike.
some sleep is not a bad idea, is it?
I think that's a very good idea for all of us and all our crew. And rather than reflect a great deal on it now, maybe we can take a cue from Tim Evans there. Go home and then hit a full day tomorrow. Thank you for your efforts tonight, Mike, and also Jim Avila. Yeoman duty down there, but historic, and I know you wouldn't want to miss it. Good night to you and to our Channel 2 news crew, and especially that crew that was manning that camera with very little help in the city council chambers for a very long time. And we're going to bid you good night or good morning at 4:37 a.m. See you for first edition beginning at 4:30 and complete review and wrap up by the Channel 2 news team. Good morning.
Channel 2, WBBM Television, Chicago.
We now join our regularly scheduled program already in progress.